Ain't no fun in games. Baby, this the book of war. Tell them stay out of my mentions. Tell them to see me on tour. I'm changing the lanes. Whole squad on board. When he pull up, they applaud. When he pull up, they applaud. Ain't no fun in games. Nah.
What's popping, YouTube? Let's get right into it. So today I'm basically filming how I passed the NCLEX in 60 questions using UWORLD, and I'm going to give you guys a lot of advice, tips, how to use UWORLD, show you guys my scores, my percentages, and everything like that. So first, I'm going to talk about like which plan I got. So I forgot which the first one is, but it's like 30-day, 90-day, and like something else. But I got the 30-day plan. Oh, there's two 30 days. I got the 30-day plan that comes with the test, and I recommend doing the plan, at least one plan that like comes with at least one test. Excuse me. Simply because like I feel like at the end of studying, you're gonna want to like see where your ability is, and it's like you've done all of that, like, and in the end, like, you're gonna be a nurse, about to be making some money, like, the $30 difference is just do it. I was originally gonna do the 90-day one because I wanted 2 tests, but I procrastinated so badly that I would literally only had 30-ish days to take the test, so it was like, there's really no point. I can deal with one exam. So yeah, so that's what I did. I'm looking over here because I have notes. Okay, so my overall average, I think, I'm going to include it here, what it was, but I think my overall average is like 58%, meaning like I got 58% of the questions I answered right, and then I got 42% of them wrong. And so overall, I think I answered about 2,200 questions, which seems like a lot, but I promise you can get through it. It's a very daunting, haunting, traumatizing number when you're starting from 1. I've been there, sis, but you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. And so yeah, so basically how UWORLD works is like when you do an individual test, like when you can break all the questions down into like they call it tests, but like if you choose to answer 25 questions at a time, like that's like a test. So however, whatever mode you do it in, we'll get into that. But basically it tells you like your percentage. So it tells you how well people did. So let's say if you did 25 questions, and so each of those questions has like percentages of the people who got them right, including the percentages in the answers. So it can be like average on, let's say, adult health, the whole system of adult health, the average is like 65%. But let's say depending on how many questions I get right and wrong, my average was 55. So that means that like I'm 10% below the average, which isn't a big deal. Some people are better at some systems than others. So don't like beat yourself up over that. So now I'm going to talk about like individual questions. So when you are taking, let's say, a test, each question you'll have like choices. Let's say if it's a regular multiple choice, you'll have A, B, C, D, but it's numbers instead of letters, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It allows you to cross out the answers, so that's something I really like. It's like when I knew an answer was wrong, I could just cross it out, so I can just focus on the ones that aren't crossed out, and it helped my eyes a little bit. UWORLD lets you do this, but you don't have this feature on the NCLEX, so you kind of just have to like remember and like learn to reread. I feel like that the UWORLD, one of the great things about it is that it is studying, and so when I get a question wrong, and technically I should have gotten it right just because I read the question wrong. So it could be like, oh, which one you needs further teaching. I'm like looking at all the answers and I end up clicking the correct one, or the one that's most correct because I'm thinking the correct answer, but the question didn't ask me what the correct answer was. It asked me technically what the wrong answer was. So I think there's so many benefits of UWORLD, and like that is one of my favorite features, even though you don't have that on the actual NCLEX. Now, for taking questions in a set of tests, or you can call them sets or tests, you have the option of timed mode and tutor mode. I answered all of my questions in tutor mode. So basically tutor mode is when you answer the question. As you go with each question, it tells you the entire explanation, whether you got it right or wrong, and it tells you even for the wrong answers kind of why they're wrong, or like in which situations would the answer be correct. And so that's basically tutor mode. Like each question, I'd spent a while on each question because I was writing stuff down, and I like would write down parts of the explanation or notes that I need to remind myself to study after I finish all the questions or stuff like that. And just writing for me helps me a lot. Whereas timed mode is basically like you're taking an exam in school, where let's say as soon as you start the exam, the clock is set, and it tells you you could set the time limit, I think, to a certain amount of time you want to give yourself, but it also like tests you like a test. So you go through questions, let's say 1 through 25, and you don't see any explanations. You just answer the questions, and then at the end you're able to go back and review the set of the 25 questions or the test. And so that's something that I know a lot of people like. I personally didn't do it because like I didn't want to do it like that. I just was like rather do it like question by question. But I know some people would want to do it that way because it resembles most similar to like what the exam is going to be like, and it's a way to kind of time yourself to see how you're doing time-wise. But I was never really concerned about time because you have 4 hours for 130 questions, and for me that's like more than enough time, if not like perfectly timed. My notes are dusty. That's a good thing because I haven't touched these in a minute. But something that I do, like I said, is writing. Guys, look at this. Just look at it. Just like, and it's just like front and back, and this is NCLEX right here. Like if I just pop this into your lap, like with this you'll pass. But I feel like it's great to get UWORLD, even if I was to give you something like this, because you get used to like the actual questions, how they phrase them, how to answer, stuff like that. But that is literally like this, that's blood, sweat, and tears right there. Question mode, as you see right here, question mode is essentially like how you can put how you choose to answer the questions. I think there's all unused, custom, and something else. I never really played around with those settings because I always just picked the system I wanted. So also another thing is like how it works is it like goes by, it goes by system. So there's like I think 6, 7 categories, or 8, it might be 8 categories. And so the categories would be like adult health, maternity, like those are the categories. And then it has systems, and so that's where you have cardiovascular, musculoskeletal, and stuff like that. What I did is like some people like to do like scattered, random. You can do it however you want to do it, but personally I picked the category I want. So if I'm doing adult health, like I'm not moving on to a different category until I'm completely done with adult health, and that's like the biggest section, and that's like what NCLEX I feel tests you on the most. And then like let's say I did endocrine, like I would do endocrine, also tells you like how many questions are in each thing. And so actually I was doing about 80 questions a day, and yeah, I would just make sure I go in order because I didn't want to scramble it, because I didn't want to scramble my brain. I know on the exam it's not going to be in order, but for me I just felt like I needed to go in order for like my brain, because like this isn't like this was studying for me. I was like, we'll deal with all of that afterwards, and like honestly it just works best for me. But you know what works best for you. Like you graduated nursing school, or if you're almost about to graduate and you're watching this video, just know that like you know your study methods and to do what you're gonna do. I thought it was impossible to really handwrite, and it wasn't impossible. I went through two pens, but which is crazy because I feel like I never run out of ink and pens, but it was well worth it. Like it was really, really worth it. And so when it comes to analyzing your results, at the end of each test you'll have it'll say like analysis, so you can go to it and then you can see like you see the average amount of people who get the percentage of the amount of people who get that question correct, and then you see where you are in that list, and it breaks it down by like question, and from question it goes to, let's say, subject, and from subject it goes to system. It tells you percentages for like everything, and so you can do that, and then you can also go back after you answered the question to see the explanations and to review anything that you wanted to review. The one thing about the NCLEX though is like not NCLEX, one thing about UWorld is that like you can't use questions already. So it's like if you did 25 questions and let's say question 7, and let's say you wanted to make a new set of 25 questions, UWorld won't let you like choose, it won't pick anything from those previous 25 questions. But it's pretty much like, that's why there's a subscription, and that's why it expires at a certain time, because if you could go back to use questions, like they wouldn't have the renew option and like all the other things they do to get your bread. Flashcard and mark for review. So I feel like I wished I used the mark for review tab more, but I honestly, like, I think I had like 10 in there, but it just wasn't on my head when I was going through the exams. Like, it just, I don't know, I would always forget about that button, but that is a really great button. It's a way to like save questions. It's basically like flagging a question, so in case you want to go back to it and do a test on the marked questions later, and that's an easy way to like do certain use questions that you want to get back, and because the way UWorld is set up. And then there's also flashcard button. So personally, you can add anything to the flashcard. You literally can highlight words, click it, but when you highlight it, it'll literally, the flashcard tab thing will come up, and so you just click add flashcard. You can add to an existing one, or you can add it to a new one. You might maybe organize your flashcards really well, but again, I was handwriting, so like I didn't really go too deep into the flashcards. What I use the flashcards for were diagrams. I feel like UWorld is really good with certain diagrams, like knowing like aortic, pulmonary, Erb's point, like just diagram of that. Maybe a diagram of like hypothyroidism, EKGs. Like I would usually, for me, it was mostly pictures. It was like very important pictures where I was like, oh, I want to be able to go back to this, and I'm not going to remember at the end when I have to go through like all the questions and systems. I can't get that back, you know. Sometimes the diagrams reappear and like, sometimes diagrams reappear in like future questions and stuff like that, but like I would just recommend clicking it, adding it to a flashcard, typing one keyword, save it. Like I didn't do any type of organization about it, and it kind of goes in chronological order. So if you're already kind of going in a type of order, it'll save in that order. So yeah, so that's basically how I use the flashcards, and everyone uses them differently, but I recommend mark review and flashcards. And then also there's 3 buttons at the bottom left of your screen, which would be like over here, and so it says end, resources, and suspend. So basically the resources button is the button where you can find all of the like values, like all of the numbers and lab values, and like let me tell you right now, like the values are going to differ from what you learned in school, like by little amounts, but the NCLEX isn't. In the questions on UWorld, I feel like sometimes they were close to the range, but usually on NCLEX, like they're not. If you know like potassium is 3.5 to 5, UWorld's not, like NCLEX is not going to be like, oh, this person has a potassium of 5.1. I mean, they might, but like at that point, you know, it's not insignificant, but it's like, you know, like they're gonna give you way off numbers, but that's where you go to find like lab values, and you have access to that while you're taking your exam. So for me, I use that button a lot because I didn't have certain lab values memorized, because I planned on memorizing them later on. So I wouldn't want to get the question wrong because I didn't know the lab value. So that's why I would just like look up the lab value to be able to answer the question, especially if it's a question where it's like, I would know this if I knew the lab value, because I know in the end, I got scared, guys. I know in the end, like, I'm gonna know the value that question, like, is asking me about. And then end versus suspend. So basically, when you're taking an exam or a test, you have the option to end or suspend that test, and so when you press end, that like whatever you answered, whatever you got right, whatever you got wrong, and whatever you omitted, counts against you. When I say counts against you, I mean it counts towards like your percentages on that pie. You'll see a circle on that pie chart that tells you, I'll include a picture here, that tells you your percentage. So when I said my percentage was 58, let's say there was a test that I had chose 50 questions, and also you can choose, how many questions you want to answer at a time. I did from anywhere from 25 to 35 at a time, and I would just take little breaks in between. So basically, like, let's say I did 25 questions and I finished and wanted to end the exam. Okay, I ended it because I'm done, right? But let's say I had to go somewhere, right, and I just wanted to close it out or whatever, and I only answered 10 of the questions, 5 of them are wrong, but there's still another 15 that, like, I didn't answer. That is going to affect my overall percentage in, like, my little pie chart. It's going to say, oh, omitted. There's going to be a section for omitted. Whereas if you suspend, which is represented by, like, the pause sign, that means your test is basically, like, paused, essentially, and then you can resume it later, and it won't count against you. So sometimes I know UWorld adds, like, testing questions that they're just collecting data for. You'll tend to see this. And so sometimes I'll just do them to do them, and like if it's really bad, like I won't include it in my pie thing because I'm just doing it for like shits and gigs at that point. And I don't really want it to go towards my score. When I started, I had 2,184, so anything above that I didn't really include. I think maybe I did, like, I included about 15, but I definitely answered, when they were collecting data, I definitely answered like at least 20 of them, or more. Okay, so final self-assessment score. Okay, so this is a test I was talking about in the beginning to buy when you buy your package. So I took my final self-assessment and I only had one, and it was hard. Like, I was like, geez, like, I feel like this is different than what they were testing me on, but I guess it is true, it is accurate to the NCLEX, but I was like, it's just hard. And I didn't think I did as well. When I was doing it again, I thought I was gonna get like borderline or low. I was aiming for high. I didn't think I would achieve very high, but I thought I was gonna get borderline when I was taking it. And I finished, and as you can see, I'll include it right here, I got very high, and I was in the 78th percentile, which was like really encouraging and made me feel really good that day. And I was just like, you know what, like, I can do this, just positive reinforcement. And yeah, so it basically tests you like a test. So it's not tutor mode, it's essentially timed mode, and you can set the amount of time that you would have to take the exam. So if you're someone who has an extended time, you can set that in the self-assessment, and in there is where you answered question by question, and then at the end it tells you your percentage, your chances of passing, and it gives you all of the data, percentages and everything, and explanations for each question. And so lastly, I just want to say that, like, I use UWorld. I didn't use anything else. Honestly, I think UWorld is enough. It does a really amazing job. If you're watching this, obviously, like, UWorld is, I feel like, the most popular. I almost got a review book, but when I started studying, I only had about a certain amount of days, and like when I divided the number of questions I had to do, because I wanted to finish all of UWorld, by the amount of like days I had, like, it was just so many that I was like, I know I'm not going to be able to use a book, and the books were kind of expensive, and like UWorld is kind of expensive too, so I would just use UWorld. Like, I passed my exam in 60 questions. I know plenty of people who their only resource to study was UWorld. If you are to get one thing, that's the one that I would recommend. It's amazing. The way they explain questions is great. I also used, I think it's called Simple Nursing or Simply Nursing on YouTube, that channel. For certain topics I wanted to just watch like visuals, because I'm a visual learner. That's why I like writing. I'd watch videos, especially on things that like I know I struggle, which is like endocrine. Like, I really hate endocrine, and like I know it, but I wanted to know it better, because things get jumbled as you study and time passes. And then I watched a lot of videos on cardiac meds, because cardiac meds I think are really important. And yeah, like that's pretty much what I did to study. That's how you use UWorld. Like, those are my tips. You can pass, and you will pass. Just remember to tell yourself that, like, I'm smart, I'm capable, I can do this. And yeah, just like really believe in yourself, and like even when you think it's impossible, it's possible. And you're gonna have days where you're tired, you're gonna have days you don't want to do questions, but just do it. Like, there was one night I started at 11 at night, like, I know, but like in the beginning it's really hard. I think adult health took me the most hours each day because I did the same amount of questions. Like I had 8-hour days, 10-hour day, like it took me a really long time, and I kind of was like, I don't know if I can do this each day. I don't know if I can keep writing. Like I was just like, I don't know, but you can do it. I was able to do it. Believe in yourself. I actually have my UWORLD account until August 26th. So if anyone, I know how expensive it is, and I wish I like made this video sooner, or I wish I just had an extended thing, but if anyone wants to use the remainder of my UWORLD account, whether that's like to look at the questions, just like, you know, before you buy it, like, I don't know, like a week could help somebody. It's more than nothing. I don't think I can give it to multiple people. I'd only be able to give it to one person, but drop down your name and your Instagram below, and also you must be subscribed to my channel. You must have watched this video all the way through because you wouldn't have known this otherwise, and like my video and turn your post notifications on. And after you've done all of those things, leave a comment down below of the stethoscope emoji. Yeah, tell me that you like followed all the steps, and let me know when leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know your nerves. Ask me questions, like anything and everything, for real. Oh, and I also don't mind sharing notes and stuff like that. So if you really want to reach out or need help or anything, just leave it in the comments below.